No, they're both. The list came up, but just happened.
What's that? Okay. I'm going to ask if Jeremy, you'd open us in prayer.
God, we thank you for this time. Thank you for this lesson that has been imparted to our lives. I thank you for this word that is still applicable. I pray you to help us to open our ears, our minds, and our hearts to listen to that voice this morning.
Amen. Praise the Lord. I want to welcome you out to our Sunday school that we've entitled Conquering Our Demons. And this has to do with the 7 deadly sins, which is not a scripture. You won't find the 7 deadly sins as a scripture, but they are, by church fathers, the root of many of the issues of fallen nature that happen in lives and hearts and cause us to go towards destruction. And so we began this series a couple weeks ago. We looked last week at the issue of pride, which is probably one of these issues, the greatest probably causing people to fall. This was the first sin of Satan. And closely connected with that one is the issue of envy. And it's possibly one of the most destructive areas of life because it's not often visible like gluttony, or pride comes out very quickly, these kinds of things. But envy is a very interesting one that someone's defined as it would be a disease like cancer of the bone. You wouldn't see it until finally it would come out in such a obvious way, but it would be underworking. You wouldn't see it. It wouldn't be obvious to anyone on the surface. And so envy, and we're going to look at this, has very ancient roots in Satan himself and is part of our fallen nature, and a issue that we have to deal with. And so let's get some scriptures. We're going to focus in on this morning. I need Proverbs 14 and verse 30. Mike? I need Isaiah 14, 12 through 14. Jeremy? Genesis 4, 4 through 8. Darlene? And couple more. 2 Corinthians 11 and verse 2. Nice short one for someone. Nelson. 1 Samuel 18, 6 through 9. 1 Samuel 18, 6 through 9. Where'd we get that? Amy. All right, that'll get us through the first section here. And so let's look at envy. Proverbs 14, verse 30.
A sound heart is life to the body, but envy is rottenness to the bones.
Envious is rottenness to the bones. It does something inside. It's compared to that rotting out from the inside. Now, envy goes back to Lucifer. He's in the garden, he's in the throne of God, throne room of God. He sees God. He sees the power, maybe the praise God is getting, maybe the position he has, whatever it is, and he wants that. He says, I want that. And so Isaiah 14, 12 through 14.
How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
And so he says, you have I want that. That's what I want. And so begins to go after this, to begin to desire this. Of course, we know it causes him to fall. And again, pride is kind of intertwined with envy. And so it's there in the Bible. It's the first warning of sin. That God's, after Adam and Eve sinned, God speaks to amend their son, Cain, and begins to talk to him about envy. Genesis 4 through 8.
Abel also brought a gift, the best portions of the firstborn lambs from his flock. The Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but he did not accept Cain and his gift. This made Cain very angry, and he looked dejected. Why are you so angry? The Lord asked Cain. Why do you look so dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right, but if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you, but you must subdue it and be its master. One day Cain suggested to his brother, let's go out into the field, and while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him.
And so here, very fascinating, that God tells Cain, you can be blessed, but he's envious of Abel's blessing. And rather than doing what's right, he kills Abel. It's fascinating if you think about this for any length of time. It's that God says, you can be blessed, Cain. This isn't impossible. This isn't something, I don't like Abel more that I'm going to bless him and I just put up with you. He doesn't say that. He says, you can have this if you will do what's right. But see, Cain, in his envy, said, no, I don't think Abel should have that. And he kills him. So it's a fascinating sin that's at work, because it's different than jealousy. Now, sometimes in the Bible and in life, we translate jealousy and envy the same. They're not the same. Jealousy is an emotion that perceives a threat to what we have. A man would be jealous if someone was flirting with his wife, because that's his wife. That's why God is a jealous God, not an envious God. 2 Corinthians 11:2.
For I am jealous for you with the jealousy of God himself. I promised you as a pure bride to one husband, Christ.
So God he says, I'm jealous for you. You're my possession. I want to protect you from sin and Satan and the calls of the world and idolatry and all of this kind of things that could draw you away from God. He says, I'm jealous for that. You're my possession. I'm that. But envy is actually, and it can be physical in the sense of a pain, of someone has something we don't, and usually that's coupled by someone has something I don't feel they deserve. They have something I want, or they have something I feel they don't deserve. So therefore, I have envy. And this is why it's so destructive, because envy then causes us to shoot arrows at other people that often just wound ourselves. 1 Samuel 18, 6 through 9.
As they were coming home, when David returned from striking down the Philistine, the women came out of all of the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tambourines, with songs of joy, and with musical instruments. And the women sang to one another as they celebrated, Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very angry, and this saying displeased him. He said, They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day on.
So he's got an eye for you. He's looking at him. He's watching him. Why? Because the women sang a song that said David killed 10,000s, where Saul only killed thousands. Now, again, Saul could have fixed this. He could have gone out and killed thousands. It's possible he could have done. But no, he's got to shoot at David now. Now David's suspect. He's fighting on the same team, but he's suspect now. He has praise that either Saul wants or Saul doesn't believe David deserves. So now he's looking at him. And so this becomes a problem. Let's get a few more scriptures because we can see this again. I need Genesis 37, 3 and 4. Steph, I need Acts 7 and verse 9. Sawyer. 3 more. I need Mark chapter 9, verses 38 and 39. Darlene. John 3, 26 and 27. Jeremy. And Matthew 20, 20 through 24. Mary. One more, I'm sorry. 1 Corinthians 13 and verse 4. Nelson, thank you. All right, so think about so here again, David, Saul hates David. Joseph dealt with this in Genesis, one of the 12. Genesis 37, 3 and 4.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a robe of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him.
And so they hated him, can't say a kind word to him. Because why? Because dad has given him something they either feel he doesn't deserve or they want. And so this becomes very dangerous. Acts 7, verse 9 gives us more insight into this.
Because the patriarchs were jealous of Joseph, they sold him as a slave into Egypt, but God was with him.
Jealous or envious, again, these words can be translated in different ways. They sell him into Egypt. We're going to remove you from being the person or the place that we don't think you deserve. Envy. And so this is why it's very critical to understand that envy, and it doesn't come out right away. It starts subtle. This is, and it can be on foolish things. My wife had a good friend come to her one time and say, I hated you. huh? Well, you got to sing on the platform and I didn't. My wife's like, I didn't ask to sing on the platform. I was kind of voluntold, and I didn't really want to do it. And but and she's like, but jealous. You can see this in different situations, scenarios. Somebody's blessed, rather than rejoicing with them. They got a new job. They maybe got a new car, relationship, whatever, had a baby, whatever it might be. Oh, now, but there's somebody there. Do you know what they really like? Do you know? I don't think they deserve that. That's envy. And it's critical to deal with because it hinders God's work in your life and possibly in others. Mark chapter 9, 38 through 40.
John said to Jesus, "Teacher, we saw someone using your name to cast out demons, but we told him to stop because he wasn't in our group." "Don't stop him," Jesus said. "No one who performs a miracle in my name will soon be able to speak evil of me. Anyone who is not against us is for us."
Amazing, isn't it? He's casting out a demon. Somebody's getting free, but I told him to stop because they're not with us. Isn't that amazing? And John comes to Jesus like, I did a good thing, right? Jesus said, no. Just because they're not with, doesn't fit in your agenda or your preconceived notions, therefore it's wrong. John thinks he's done a good thing. Jesus says, no, you haven't. And so this can happen to you and I because I've seen people jealous of ministry. Well, they get to do this, or they get to do that, or they get, and like, if that's what God has for them, who are you to say no? John 3, 26 and 27.
And they came to John and said to him, "Rabbi, he who is with you beyond the Jordan, to whom you have testified, behold, he is baptizing, and all are coming to him." John answered and said, "A man can receive nothing unless it has been given to him from heaven."
And again, here's John the Baptist disciple. You know that Jesus guy that you baptized said this is the Son of God? Now he's baptizing, and people are going to him. What are we going to do? I've seen some people, they're jealous, they're envious because someone in a different city has more people in their church than they do. So they have to therefore bring them down. I've actually there was one man in particular, he went after me and Pastor Ron Bannon. This was many years ago. And he's just convinced. Actually, we were all in different states. But somehow, you don't sell it, and he got in my face one time, like, dude. Ended up blowing out. God's restored him, God's helped him. He did eventually apologize. But God, years were wasted because of envy. This is a wicked little cancer inside. And it can come out. And even in the disciples, Matthew 20, 20 through 24.
Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to him with her sons, kneeling down and asking something from him. And he said to her, "What do you wish?" She said to him, "Grant that these 2 sons of mine may sit, one on your right hand and the other on the left, in your kingdom." But Jesus answered and said, "You do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I am able to drink, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They said to him, "We are able." So he said to them, "You will indeed drink my cup and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it is prepared by my Father." And when the 10 heard it, they were greatly displeased with the 2 brothers.
So here's the mom gets involved here. Jesus, pretty please, can my boy sit on your right hand and your left? And so Jesus gives them a little, can you drink of the same drink and be baptized? Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, it's still not mine to give. But the other 10 hear this. They're like, you stinking dogs. What are you doing trying to get position? Kissing up to Jesus, huh? And so this thought creates problems. And so they're indignant. Why? Because they're envious. What are you asking for? Why do you think you're so special? Physical pain sometimes at what someone has that either we want or believe they don't deserve. It can, and it is the opposite of love. 1 Corinthians 13:4.
Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous and boastful or proud.
And so here, we read this last week because love is the cure for pride. And so pride and love cannot coexist, neither can envy and love. And so this becomes a definite problem. Now, are there any questions to this point? I'm going to add one more layer to envy, and then we're going to talk about how to overcome it. Okay. I need Genesis 16, 1 through 6. We get that. Terry? And then I need Genesis 21, 8 through 11. Staff? I need Matthew 27, 17 and 18. Sawyer? I need 2 Samuel 20, verses 8 through 10. Logan. All right, and then we'll get into the cure. What's very interesting about envy is that it adopts a worldview, a mentality, if you will, that if someone has acquired something, gets something, does something that they feel that either they wanted to do or they don't deserve, whatever it might be, the feeling is that life is not fair, but hidden behind that is ambition. Unbridled ambition is dangerous. Unbridled ambition is dangerous because, again, envy is feeling the pain that a person experiences when they see someone possess something that either they want or they feel they don't deserve to have. And so involved in that is the thought there of social, what if it's free? It should all be good. This is where socialism looks really good on paper and fails in application. I mentioned it before, I'll mention it probably a lot. I lived 11 years in the former Soviet Union under communism. Now, communism and socialism are different. And if you don't understand the fundamental differences between socialism and communism, I don't have time to explain that to you today. But communism says you don't own anything. Socialism allows you to own, but still then dictates a lot of your life. And so communism, Animal Farm, the great expression from Animal Farm. All animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others. And that couldn't have been more true in an application. We rented an apartment that was nicer than most of the apartments, the commie condos, we used to call them. They were nicknamed, that was not something I coined, but that was something. These were just apartments that often were one-room apartments. You had a small galley kitchen, a separate toilet and sink room, and a separate shower or bathroom where the bathtub or the shower was, separate from where the toilet and the sink were. And one room. We had one family of 4 that lived in that kind. Their living room was their bedroom, was their dining room. And they had that. We rented an apartment. We were in the writers, the intellectual section of the city that actually had 3 bedrooms. And it had been remodeled since Western times, but so it had some nice amenities. But everyone was given their apartment, but you were given it based on your job. Well, the way if you had an apartment I wanted, I could tell the authorities that you were speaking against the government, you get arrested, and then maybe as a reward I get your apartment. I'll just lie about you. And this happened all the time. One of the men in my church told me he was on a trolley bus when the KGB came on and just arrested someone for saying something that he said, I've never said that. I don't even know what you're talking about. Now, of course, he would deny it, but most likely he didn't. Because envy isn't removed on the thought of let's just all be equal. That's not a reality. The reality in here is there are people who are good looking and others who know they're good looking. There are people who are smart. There are people who are talented. There are people who have money. That's going to be in here. That, you know what? There's people who don't have some of those things. Maybe you're like me and don't have any of those things. But anyway, all right, that you're going to have to deal with the fact that we're not all equal. We're equal in the pursuit of happiness. We're equal in the pursuit of free will. We can get saved. Yes, all of those things are true. But the reality that we're all equal is not there. So therefore, envy will enter in. There is a old legend of a African village that shared everything. Everything was simply, it was a kind of a perfect little socialist bubble. And so, everybody had the same. They hadn't, they had their hut, they had their family, they had their food. If someone caught, a wild game, they would share it with all. And then one day, as a plane was flying over, a small little plane, man was drinking a Coke and he threw the bottle out the window. Now, there was one Coke bottle, and not everybody could have it. And it tore apart the village because everybody wanted that Coke bottle. Because there was only one. And so envy grabbed, and the old story goes that people were killed over it, people were beat up over it, people were stolen. All of a sudden it tears apart the very fabric of it because envy enters in and it becomes a problem. Genesis 16, 1 through 6.
Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, "The Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her." And Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. So Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress Sarai with contempt. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now she's pregnant and she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show you who's wrong, you or me." Abram replied, "Look, she's your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away.
It is an amazing story. And it starts out with Sarai cannot get pregnant. So Sarai hatches the idea, I'll bring you Hagar. And what's kind of always fascinating to me in this story is Hagar had Sarah asks Abram, do you like this idea? But nobody asks Hagar. It's just the way it is. A slave girl at this time, that's the way it was. She gets pregnant. And now, Sarah's jealous. She's envious. You have something I don't have. You have something I want, and I can't get that. And so how does she treat Hagar? With contempt. And so this is the way it plays out. And this is why socialism will never work. Communism will never work. Because of the inbound issues of sin and pride and envy. Genesis 21, 8 through 11.
And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on that day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, laughing. So she said to Abraham, "Cast out the slave woman with her son, for the son of the slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac." And the thing was very displeasing to Abraham on account of his son.
So here again, he's mocking, he's doing that, but no, he's gone. Cast out. And so this becomes a problem. Even Jesus, the base reason why the Pharisees brought Jesus to Pilate. Matthew 27, 17 and 18.
So when the crowd had gathered,
he enters into the city, and they're chanting, "Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna." They're not doing that for the high priest. They're not doing that for others. He's seeing miracles. Nicodemus comes to him and says, "We know," not I know, we know that he's talked about this. There are other Pharisees that have this going on in their mind, that Jesus is from God. But because of envy, they turn him over to Pilate to be crucified. He has something we don't think he deserves. So therefore, we are going to kill him. It's not new with Jesus. It's not new in the Bible at Jesus. 2 Samuel 20, 8 through 10.
While they were at the great rock at Gibeon, Amasa came to meet them.
Study him, he's the perfect picture of a rebel. He'll say the right things when he has to. He'll do the right things when it's profitable for him. But he'll also tear down anyone he perceives as a threat. And he'll lie to David. It's a picture of a rebel. And so in this, he kills Amasa because he perceives him to be a threat. Amasa is the head of Saul's family's army. This is when Saul is dead. David has been king, but Saul's family's trying to hang on to the throne. David's growing stronger. Amasa and another man, they want to have talks. They want to tell Saul, Saul's family, you're done. It's supposed, Nithaka, or whatever his name was, says, you're done. We're not going to have you as king anymore. And so Joab hears this and he says, you know what, Ammon's a better military leader than I am. I better kill him before he becomes the leader of David's army. Because that's the position I want. He doesn't deserve that. Envy is a dangerous sin. So let's talk then about the cure. Because there is a cure to envy, and it's a twofold cure that you have to lay hold of. I need some scriptures. Hebrews 13, 4 and 5. Who would get that? Jeremy? I need Philippians 4, 11 and 12. Mike? 1 Timothy 6, 6 and 7. Sawyer? James 4 and verse 10. Darlene? Colossians 3 and verse 12. Crystal? And 1 Peter 5, 5. Rich? All right, so let's think about this, because there's a cure for envy. And it begins with dealing with our hearts. And the first one is we have to be content. And contentment is a learned decision. Say that again. Contentment is a learned decision. Hebrews 13, 4 and 5.
Marriage is honorable among all, and the bed undefiled.
Issues of contentment that play out, or discontentment that play out. One is in a marriage that will lead to adultery, and one is in money that will cause people to deny God. So he says you have to learn to make the decision to be content with who you're married to. If you're married, you're married. Right? If you're not married yet, you can break it off, move on, you can do whatever. Once you're married, you're married. Learn to be content with who you have. Social media is an enemy of this, because social media is designed to make you envious. Look at my car, look at my girl, look at my money, look at my lifestyle. Aren't you jealous? Aren't you envious of what I have? And then what happens is, if you're looking at all of that, you're going to look at your wife and go, she's not photoshopped like that. You're going to look at your husband and think, he doesn't treat me like that. And now I can justify not being content with my spouse. Marriage in the vows is for better or for worse. And life doesn't always go the way you want it to go. Just the fact you get older is proof. Life doesn't go the way you always want it to go. I don't have the knees I used to have. I don't have the stamina I used to have. That's just part of the way it works. And so life goes on. Your money. You know, it's amazing how in America we can be discontent. The richest nation on the planet. If you own a house, you are part of the 5% of the richest people in the world. If you own a car, you're in the top 20% people in the world. The top 20%. There are nations where if you make $5 a day, you are doing really well. What do you start at a fast food restaurant now? $15, $16 an hour? Like I said in Lithuania, I knew people, not just one family, but numbers of family, one-room apartments. Their kitchen was a little separate, their bathrooms were separate, but their bedroom was their living room, was their dining room. And a large majority of the world lives like that. I've been invited into those kinds of houses for dinner in Nepal, in Russia, in Romania. This is how they live. And it's fascinating to see that, thinking how much we have. I would think this, I actually got invited into, I think it was in Nepal, Russia too, but into their houses. So you'd go back to the hotel room and realize this is bigger than their whole apartment. So, you know, we get envious. Why? Because you can't have that Lamborghini? Because the woman who cooks and cleans your dirty socks and is there for you isn't the Photoshop babe you saw on Instagram? Because he doesn't make 7 figures a month? And on it goes. To be content is a learned decision. You learn to be content with the car that you have, not the car that you want. You learn to be content with the job that you have, at the salary that you get, rather than the salary that you want. I want to work 4 hours a day and I want to make $60,000 a month. Good luck. Right? That we have to be satisfied with what we have. It's a learned decision. Philippians 4:11 and 12.
Not that I speak in regard to deed, for I have learned in whatever state I am to be content.
You make a decision to put it on. You wear it. You say, this is what I'm going to have. And present. That's the picture there. 1 Peter 5:5.
In the same way, you who are younger must accept the authority of the elders, and all of you dress yourselves in humility as you.
Not what I think I deserve. Thank you for what I have. God will bless us. God says, I can work with someone like that. And so envy is something we have to deal with in all our hearts because it's there. And so as we deal with it in simply saying, I'm going to learn to be content with what I have, and I'm going to be humble to think I don't deserve great and awesome things. God will bless us, he'll help us, yes, but all of that is on his timing and his desire, not on ours. Any questions or comments? Okay, we got a baby dedication, so we're going to wrap this up right now.